talk us through, I guess, like day one, and I want to even go before the UFC because I know your relationship with Tito and Chuck. Talk us through that and then how you got to actually getting involved with the UFC.
Yeah, so I started, me and the Fertitta brothers started taking jiu-jitsu, and we fell in love with it. We became addicted to it. So we were training 3-4 days a week, and through that, our instructor was a guy named John Lewis. And he knew all the UFC guys. So we started training with Chuck and Tito and, a ton of other, BJ Penn and all these other guys that would come in and train with us. And we started to meet some of these guys and we were blown away by them. We liked them. We loved the sport. And then I started managing Chuck and Tito. And through that, I got into a huge battle with the old owner of the UFC named Bob Meyerowitz, who's from New York. And, basically we're battling over Tito's contract and he flips out at me one day and says, you know what? There is no more money. This is it. I don't even know if I have enough money to put on one more event. And I was like, oh shit. I called Lorenzo and I said, you know what? The UFC's in trouble. I'll bet we could buy it. And I think we should. So I connected him and Lorenzo Fertitta, who was, the Fertitta brothers were my longtime partners in the UFC. And he got on the phone with Meyerowitz, and I don't know, a month and a half, 2 months later, we owned the company for $2 million.
Really? So it was you three in the beginning?
What's that?
It was you three, the brothers and you?
And me and the Fertitta brothers.
So were they the money guys and you were the one that kind of just said, hey, this is an opportunity that and what'd you buy for?
$2 million.
$2 million.
Back in 2001, we bought it for $2 million.
It's insane.
We sold it for $4.025 billion in 2016, and it was just valued at $12.3 billion last month.
Jesus. That sounds too simple. That sounds, and courage to you. It's interesting when I hear successful stories and people that let's say, grew up with, there's always some others from the outside that say, how did he do that? And my reflection and experiences taught me that the way that person got where they are today from the person they were 20, 30 years prior is because they had balls, because they had courage, because they took a chance. Either they put up their own money and their own name, or a combination of, the two, or other influences of people to help them. But nothing comes easy. And certainly that path, when you summarize it that way, it sounds like, wow, anybody could have did it. Well, I'm not sure anyone else could have done what you've done either.
Yeah, no, it's true. And it's some people were meant to work for themselves and some weren't. You have to be built a certain way to get up every day and work for yourself. But that's all I ever liked to do. I've worked for myself since, I was probably, I'd say 21 years old. So,
what were you doing before this? At 21?
Before fighting?
Yeah.
I had all the odd jobs early on in my younger days, 17 to 20 years old. And then once I got into fighting, that's all I ever did. I was only involved in fighting from 21, 22 years old.
Did you want to be a pro fighter?
Yeah, at one point I did.
Yeah.
And then you realize you're not, it's no different than any other professional athlete, whether you're good enough to be a football player, baseball player, or whatever it is.
Right.
You have to come to the realization that it ain't going to happen.
Yeah,
but I always wanted to be in the fight business. So it didn't matter what part of it was. This is what I wanted to do. And I think that's one of the reasons that I've been so successful too, is because half the battle in life is knowing what you want to do for the rest of your life. You have all these kids that go to college, and you ask them what their major is. They're like, well, I'm majoring in this, but I'm thinking about getting into this, because they don't know what they want to do. They were told if they didn't go to college, they'd never amount to anything. So they're in college. But the key to everything is to figure out who are you and what do you want to do for the rest of your life. Once you figure that out, it gets a lot easier.
That's a great point. It's a great point, but that figuring it out is a longer stretch play for a lot of people. And that 100%. Is right.
There's people who are 30 and still don't know what they want to do for the rest of their life, Sure. So I've been very lucky that I've always known that I wanted to be in the fight business. And how many people told me how stupid that was back then?
I'm sure.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this clip, be sure to check this one out right here, because it's just as good, or maybe even better. Cheers.